I hate when people do this when they're like, "This is your best work," because you're like, "Oh, really?" I remember this guy. Hey, man, I saw War Dogs. Best thing you've ever done. I was like, "Oh, really? Okay."
How you doing, Bradley?
I'm good. I just said, but it looks like I'm in like a Birdman movie, doesn't it? It's like, where do you live, Bradley?
Oh man,
It's like a shaft of light. It's all dark.
it's good to see you, man.
I don't know if people realize we haven't worked actually together, but we've been in the same movie.
10 years ago,
Place
yes.
Beyond the Pines.
I was so excited to do that movie. Be in
Oh,
that
me
with
too,
everybody.
man.
Yeah, it was and great work. Great work, brother.
Oh, you too, man.
Yeah.
You too. You kidding? Because well, we didn't know each other at that point. That was the first time I had seen you, and
Yeah.
wow, the way you are when he comes into your house. Oh man, yeah, yeah. That was what a wonderful thing to work with Derek, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I like the way he does it.
What was that like for you? Because for people who don't know, with Derek Cianfrance, and he did Place Beyond the Pines and Blue Valentine, he's just a wonderful director. You perform the essence of what is there, and that is what's captured, and he kind of pieces it together in post. Do you use any of that in how you direct?
Yeah, I mean, all we're trying to do is capture a truthful moment between two people living in imaginary circumstance, telling the story, right? So I like the extremes to which he does it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, I had to take the police academy test, which I dug. I dug all that and do all that kind of research, which he wanted me to do, which I love doing and was invaluable. And he cast two guys I went to grad school with, Gabe and Luca, who played the other cops, Luke Perucci and Gabe Fazio, who then went to work opposite Mark Ruffalo. So Derek Cianfrance did a show on HBO where, similar to what you just did in Swan Song, where
It's
Mark
incredible.
had to act off himself.
If you don't mind just transitioning a bit to Nightmare Alley.
We'll see.
It's very challenging to watch a film and just watch the story and just purely enjoy the story for the story. There's other things, and I know you do it as a director and writer. You're just thinking about how they were able to pull this thing off and how it was put together and all these little pieces and parts of it.
Come on in and behold the mysteries of the universe.
You don't fool people, Stan. They fool themselves.
When I was watching Nightmare Alley, I was just thinking about, one, your work was phenomenal, but then two, I was thinking about how difficult of a role it is and the places that you have to go to bring that character to life and the place that you have to live in for that time. How do you wrestle with the character that has like a deep emptiness like that and still bring light and energy and some degree of hope to it along the journey?
I don't really think about it other than what's the investigation? Because at the script writing stage of a film, you're still creating a roadmap that has, and as specific as that roadmap can be, it's still a roadmap, in my opinion, because once it gets up on its feet, I don't understand why one wouldn't want to keep exploring, because it's in a completely new paradigm. So then it's just about inhabiting him and just being present. And especially in this movie, Nightmare Alley, a lot of things happened on the day. It was terrifying for both Guillermo and myself because of that. It was really going into the unknowing, because it is really only about one thing, the failed construct of man. That's it. The whole movie leads towards the end, where finally someone tells him who he is.
Yes, and he says in the end, I was born for it.
I was born for it.
Is Stanton conscious of his destiny because of his answer in the end and the way you played that? It almost felt like it went back to the very early parts of the film, or maybe even his life, where he may have had a fear that was going to be his ending.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was not conscious of it. No way. But subconsciously, do we all run away from who we are? He doesn't suffocate his father with a pillow, actively killing him. He watches him die passively and puts his blanket over himself like a king's robe, sitting on the throne. Like I'm the king now. Like in this very pathetic sort of way, really, if you think about it. And then he's just running away. He's hopeful. He finds this world, this carny world. Clem says, nobody cares what you've done. Everybody accepts you here. But he's lost. He does have empathy. He really does fall in love with Molly. That's the tragedy of it all. He's not a sociopath. He just has absolutely no compass. No one has ever taught him right and wrong, good and bad. There's nothing believing in more than himself, and there's no higher power. There's no God. There's nothing. So when Pete warns him, no man can outrun God, and he's like, gotcha, thank you. I'm going to go upstairs and rehearse. It's just because it's a means of survival. He's not twirling his mustache either. I just tried to inhabit him in a way that I wasn't acting. That was it. Just not acting.
I know you're no good. And I know that because neither am I.
How was it working with Guillermo del Toro? What are you taking from him moving on as a director and writer?
Well, number one, whenever you, as I'm sure you've done, you have a relationship with the people you create at this level with, which I love. And so, number one, I have a friend for life in him. He's so smart and sensitive and humble and just wants the best for everybody. But from a technical standpoint, his attention to detail, the world he creates, his use of the techno crane in an intimate scene, those are things that I had not been exposed to. So in every facet, I've learned from him. And Guillermo really was interested in exploring where we are as a culture. How did we get to where we are? This morally relativistic world we live in, and just exploring that in a no BS way. And that was very interesting to me.
And dancing?
When's the last time you did?
A while.
Yeah? We're gonna fix that.
I have a sense that you have a love for discipline or appreciation for discipline. Meaning like structure. It's just my sense from watching you.
My daughter will attest to that.
I have no insider info. I'm just saying that there's something about you that, and I don't know if it's 100% of the time, but it's clear to me just as an observer that there's something about you that really appreciates or has embraced discipline and a certain degree of order. And I think what tells me that is the fact that you're a multi-hyphenate and you do so many things so well. What is that for you, and how far back does that go for you, and what is your relationship to discipline?
Love equals discipline, I would say. If I love something, I can put enough work into, I can have the discipline. Because I would say that I can procrastinate, I can be lazy, but when it comes to storytelling or a relationship that is meaningful or a way of treating people in life, there's a discipline to that. But in terms of the work, I just turned 47. I've been doing this for a long time. I definitely I have a crazy work ethic. That is definitely true, no question. And so much so that the jobs that I have taken in the last 5 or 6 years, the people that I've worked with, before I've worked with them, I have said, I just want to say it out of the gate, I work really hard. This isn't going to be easy. And it's because I love it so much, Mahershala.
Who do you credit that to, in part? I mean, obviously it's in you.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because what we do as storytellers, film, in cinema especially, but even if it's a play, is we do all this work and then we do it, and then that's it. And that's it. And once it's done, once it doesn't belong to us anymore, it's for the audience, that's it. So I always look at it, do as much as one can to create the best piece of art, and then you let it go. But I just cannot live with myself as if I didn't use that time to work as hard as I could to get it to the best place it could be. And also, Mahershala, I grew up with, this idea that we do what we do for a living. I dreamt it. Yeah. I don't know if I ever dreamt this big.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I allowed myself to. So I'm very aware of how lucky I am. Yeah. So, deeply aware of how fortunate I am to absolutely love and love what I do for a living. Love. So work hard, of course. Shame on me if I don't work hard and I'm here now. I'm not going to squander this. No way, man. No way. So that it all comes from love.
Thank you. That's a beautiful answer. Thank you,
No.
brother. I appreciate that. I do. I can see a certain discipline and consciousness, a very specific discipline and consciousness in your work purely through how well things tie together.
Thank you, and it's because I've always loved storytelling. Like I never felt like I was other actors that I was around. I was like, I guess I have different. I don't know. I always felt different. It's because I want to write and direct movies, and I've always wanted to do that since I was a kid. I think I was just too scared. I sort of made a decision when I slowed down because I felt like I'd spent a decade just going movie to movie, and sometimes it would work, and sometimes you get some prep, and then like American Sniper, I got the book and I put the work in, asked Clint Eastwood to direct it, and then we spent the time and got the script right and really took it from an idea all the way to the end. And then the same thing with this play, The Elephant Man, and then Star is Born even more so of actually writing it and really from just an idea or taking it from a feeling of wanting to do something with music. You know, I've always wanted to be a musician, or I felt like I could inhabit a guy like that in a real way, and I wanted to tell a love story. There's no pure way to show love than two people singing, literally, because you can't hide.
Yeah.
So like those kind of things, like feeling that and then taking that all the way through to a film that you can then show somebody. And that's where I feel like I am now. And a lot of that, Mahershala, is because honestly, the directors I admired weren't hiring me, and it was like,
Right.
and because I'd done enough work, it's not even to audition because they have already made a decision in their mind whether you're right or not for something. So
Right.
once you pass that audition point, which we're both at, but then you become like, oh, I know Mahershala. Do you know what I mean? And
Right.
you're like, well, maybe
right.
you don't.
And that can get very narrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nightmare Alley was an interesting example of just how sort of still insecure I am. I was like, oh, I guess I still am the guy that wants to be in like the group, because I was like, I had no intention of acting in anything other than I've been writing and working on this movie about marriage called Maestro.
What was the last thing you auditioned for?
It's so funny you say that. I think I know, and it's Paradise Lost. I put myself on tape with my buddy Wes to play Satan, and we were going to do it. This was 2012, I think, and I got the role. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy, and then it wound up not coming together. And just recently, actually, I thought about maybe after Maestro, I'd want to try to write and direct a version of Paradise Lost. Would be insane. Well, you know, adapt from Milton's poem.
Tell me about Maestro a bit.
Well, I wanted to be a conductor since I was a kid. Like, I was obsessed with it. Asked Santa Claus for a baton when I was 8. And I spent, like, you know, honestly put my 10,000 hours in for, but like conducting to just music, not learning how to conduct, just listening to music, falling in love with it, and like being able to really know every single moment of a piece, like Tchaikovsky's Opus 35 in D major, this violin concerto. I could do it like just like as if you, like I know everything about it without really being able to speak the language, obviously. Steven Spielberg knew that I had this obsession with conducting. I created this character in grad school and wrote a monologue. So it's always been in me. And then he had this project called Maestro, which was a biopic idea. And he was talking to me about potentially acting in it, but I had just been working on The Star is Born, finishing it. And I said, listen, all I want to do is write and direct movies. I always felt like I could play conductor, but may I research the material and see if I can write it and direct it? Would you let me do that? And I showed him A Star is Born, and then he did. Because Steven has a lot of interest, but then he'll just choose one thing, and the other things will either be on hold. So I think he knew he wasn't going to make that movie for a while. So he then was kind enough to hand it off to me to explore, and that's what I've been doing for the last 4.5 years. And we start shooting in May.
Wow.
So it's really exciting, and I've had the time to prep, like an incredible amount of time.
Yeah.
But Guillermo del Toro, Leonardo DiCaprio dropped out, and then he came to me. And I still remember thinking, like, really, like, oh, wow, the guys that don't hire me, they want to hire me? Like, I'm the next guy after Leo? And and that cast that was already assembled other than Kate. And then it was like, of course I have to do it just because I've never been allowed into that group. The way it really was, it was ego. It was like insecurity and ego. Thankfully, it wound up being an incredible experience. Anyway, Swan Song.
Second you tell your wife that you are dying, your opportunity to do this is gone.
I want people to see this movie, Mahershala.
Well, me too.
No, but I mean, like, people need to see this movie. I hate when people do this when they're like, "This is your best work," because you're like, "Oh, really?" I remember this guy. Hey, man, I saw War Dogs. Best thing you've ever done. I was like, "Oh, really? Okay." And so I won't try not to say that because I love your work. I know I haven't seen everything, but I've seen a lot of your work. Man,
Thank
you're
you,
so
brother.
good, dude.
Thank you.
You are
Thank
so
you.
good, dude.
Thank you.
Clearly two different characters to me.
Yeah.
You swept me up into the reality of that illusionary tale. I never questioned it. It was so clear to me. You didn't even have to put the different outfits on. Whatever work you had done, it all paid off. Because,
Thank you.
man, the trickery of it went away instant. It was never there, quite honestly. So did you have somebody?
I did. I had a gentleman by the name of Shane Dean, and I got to read with him via Zoom before we started filming, and his essence felt right. It felt like a nice match where I felt like I was working off of a version of myself, just sort of like rhythm, spirit, and tone. There was something there that felt, at least for the character, that felt right. I couldn't have pulled that off without Shane.
You want to go say hi?
We're doing scenes and then we're basically switching, and sometimes during one setup because they're just gonna like split the frame or something like that.
Yeah.
So you're doing these
They'll
quick
just change.
changes.
Right.
And at a certain point, it's challenging in the beginning, but I think, it's a muscle. It begins to wake up and understand that I just gotta like switch, and you don't over question it and you just jump in. So in essence, you're playing two characters, but if you just committed to playing the one you're playing in the moment, then you're always only playing one character. And that's just how I looked at it. I just really tried to focus on, if I was playing Cameron in that moment, what were Cameron's intentions, wants, needs, what was he feeling? I committed to that, then I put that down and I commit to Jack.
What did you do? No, I don't like this. You think I like this? Talking to my wife under a spotlight?
She's not your wife!
I find that there's two different types of actors, right? There's an actor that has sort of, Robert De Niro used to say, like, it's bedroom perfect when they come. Like, they have already sort of made all the decisions. And by the way, and then you watch the movie, and it works.
Yeah.
It doesn't not work.
Yeah.
But the experience of doing the movie for the other actor is not that it works.
Right.
You're just sort of, you're actually watching the movie before it's been edited.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I've worked with incredible actors that do that. I'm not that guy.
Right. Me either.
And by the way, one isn't worse than the other. I mean, it's just two different styles.
What I enjoyed, Naomi Harris and we didn't rehearse one time. We got to set, felt the room, the energy. Ben might whisper a thing or two to us, and then we just jumped in. I'm a big hip hop head. I know you love hip hop. I remember you were listening to Tyler, the Creator album. We were working on Place Beyond the Pines. But it's freestyling. It's the energy to just go out there and kind of go with the flow, do it off the top of your head, have a sense of what's going on. I love being word perfect. Of course, I'm always wanting to prioritize the writing. You have to prioritize the writing and the story and keep it on track. Because when you come out of theater and they're correcting you on if you said the or a or b, like every little word, it's hard to let go of that once you get into film and television, and they're less precious with it. It's really beautiful when you can get into that space and that nobody's caught up on ego or too caught up on their fear. You're able to put that to the side and then really just be in service to the story. And I'm always surprised by how much energy I have for the work when I'm really just advocating for that character and in service to the story. I feel like there's times when I could do it all night. We could do a 20-hour day if I'm doing it from the right place. When it's about other stuff, I find I get tired quicker and I have to check in with myself and go, well, what are do you know what you're trying to accomplish in this scene? So I don't have it all worked out, I don't.
If the filmmaker creates an environment for people to inhabit, as clearly this filmmaker did, then it would almost be a disservice to the story itself and the exploration not to take.
Yes.
There's sensorially everything.
Yes.
First of all, you're just outside in the wilderness. Number one, who knows what's going to happen? So you want to be able to take in your reality because they've worked so hard to create it.
Yes.
For gosh sakes.
On that note, something we did that was really helpful that reminded me of working with Derek Sion-France. I'm sure you remember the stories about Blue Valentine and how Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, they lived together for 9 to 5 or something, rehearsed. What felt somewhat similar to that was the first 2 weeks of the film we were improv. Everything was improv. And it was exhausting. And it was emotional.
Let me ask you this real quick. There's a lot in this film of your character's memories.
Yes.
And so, but we're seeing them visually. So
Yes.
there's all of these moments and just little slices, but they're
Little flashes.
but they're all completely full.
He was always intending to only use a flash of it, but we had to, every one of those flashes that you see were full-blown scenes, like,
Clearly.
on the schedule.
Clearly. That's tremendous.
It was tremendous because I think it did something to help imbue the film with a certain spirit, but also infused us with a bit of courage in going into every day and not feeling like we had to have everything worked out, because that's what work was to be there and in the moment together, work it out and find it. And so that was really beautiful. Bradley, tell me a little bit about playing what I view as the volatile Jon Peters.
You blew it, man. You blew it. Did she call?
No.
God damn it, Steve. No gas, though, in the goddamn car, Steve-O!
Well, here's like just on the tail of what we were talking about. Like, can't believe I'm here. I'm not going to squander this. Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't know what you think about him, but I think he's an absolute master.
It's brilliant. He's a brilliant filmmaker.
The reason that I didn't give up acting was Paul Thomas Anderson, specifically. And so when he called me to maybe be in his movie, Mahershala,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd open up a door in his movie. Like, I'd do anything.
Yes.
And so it just so happened we shot that during the pandemic. So we broke from Nightmare Alley. I was able to grow a beard, and Fox Searchlight was like praying that I didn't get COVID while we're shooting this, because we had to go back and continue Nightmare Alley. But I was like, there's no way I'm not doing it. And Guillermo said, of course you have to do this. That was the first movie back from COVID. And Jon Peters was the beginning of the movie. So I started with everybody else, which was a wonderful way, rather than coming in when everybody's already downriver. Yeah. But because of that, I spent 3.5 weeks with Paul. I watched all the camera tests. He was teaching me all about lenses, things I never knew. He's just incredible. And I just was like a sponge. I'm not sure I've ever trusted a director as much as I've trusted Paul on the set, and to be on a set and trust your director that much that you could really be free was pretty incredible. Like, we kind of looked at each other after every take like, holy, there's something going on here. Like, we didn't even really say much. It was like, should we do another one? I mean, it really was like, let's see what Jon Peters is going to do now.
Wow.
And we work with Mark Bridges, who's going to do Maestro, an incredible costume designer. We found that outfit, that we took from a photograph. It used to be 2 outfits. We made it 1. And Ryan Heffington, this great choreographer, plays Jon Peters' like sort of house manager or something. Yeah. And like we were talking about maybe doing this like Kato Pink Panther fight thing as he comes out. But instead we're like, that's too much, but let's just use the sticks. So, I don't know if you know, but in the scene, Ryan Heffington's character is just holding these 2 huge bamboo sticks. And we never explain why, but because we had prepped so much, like we knew why. That we, we
necessarily
would just
try to give context for it. You were very clear on what was going on.
We knew.
Love that. I love it.
And then they laughed. So he's holding these sticks,
I love it.
So the level of specificity, because we all put the work in, it paid off.
It's really impressive, and I'm curious because I know for me, I have to coach myself up into being larger at times. The character jumps off the screen.
I would say Mahershala, actually, I actually think this is an example of, he's not big, he's not screaming.
Barbra Streisand.
Sand.
Sand, yeah, like sands, like the ocean, like
Barbra
beaches.
Streisand.
No, like Streisand.
Sand.
Streisand.
Streisand.
In fact, I felt like I was, which is sort of the thing, like if you're going to play drunk, play a guy trying to be sober. You know what I mean?
Right.
I felt like John was just trying to just keep it all together, man.
Right. Well, I see you in the truck, and in the truck you had this moment where you go, kind of bring it in, right?
Yes. I mean, he's always trying to bring it in. Just throwing the trash can through the window. That's the least of it. That's the least of it.
How was it making that transition from going to playing Stanton in Nightmare Alley to playing John in Licorice Pizza in the middle of it, and then going back?
I mean, the good thing is, and I learned this on Sniper, but on A Star Is Born, is that I banked that character 6 months before we started shooting. So I could direct the actors, tell the story, all that stuff, work on the writing as Jackson Maine. Stanton Carlisle, I banked him. I banked him early on. We had 6 months to prep. So he was inside of me, right? And I kept the little pilot light on, you know. So he was all there. I trusted it.
Yes.
And then I had enough time to create Jon Peters, but it was also like one of those things where lightning striking, you know. But I did have time because we had that 4 weeks and I'd been thinking about it. And I researched as much as I could and then worked a lot on the story and then blocked it out. McCoy Bell did this wonderful wig, you know, that outfit with the high heel boots, you know, come on. It's like, you can only walk like that, you know, like it all just happened.
Yes.
But the thing that I could have been scared about was then going right back into Stanton. But because that pilot light was on, the minute I just honestly like landed in Toronto, walked around the grounds of the carnival, which is a testament to Guillermo, you know, the carnival was a practical football field length arena. I mean, I never left the set. I never wore anything but the wardrobe. I never put on a North Face jacket. I just was like soaking it in all the time, always there. And so, and it felt like a meditation, Mahershala. Really, it did. It was like Stanton he deserved it, really. It was like, he just deserved it. Thank you. This has been such a pleasure.
Bradley, same here.
I want to continue it offline because your movie, as I texted you, broke me last night. And I'm so much better for having seen it. And I really pray people watch this movie and see what you've done.
Thank you. Thank you, Bradley. And beautiful work. And I'm putting that's because I'm sure you're busy, so I'm gonna say 7, but I'm gonna put a 5 to 7 year limit on when we get to work together.
Okay.
In a real, you know, heads-on way, because I would love for that to happen, brother.
I'm gonna start thinking now.
Oh, you're amazing, brother. So thank you.
Thank you, buddy.